Hey everybody, what is up? What is up? What is up? I'm signing on a little bit early so that way those of you guys that are or that way we can get started a little early, because I'm like really long-winded if y'all didn't know. And so what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be sharing with you guys my story, my recovery journey, as well as just like where I'm at today in my present day life. And yeah, so make sure that we're on public. We are. Okay. So for those of you guys that don't know, what's up? My name is Nicole Pludre. You can call me Nikki or Nicole, whichever one you prefer. And I'm a person that is in recovery. I've been in recovery since July 13th of 2015. I got sober after losing custody of my son to Child Protective Services. And a lot of you guys, what prompted me to do this live is I've been getting a lot of questions on my Reels videos that I've been making. Because, you know, Reels are like short form content. So it's like a minute and 30 seconds, and I really can't say everything I want to say in a minute and 30 seconds. So I get a lot of questions asking me like, why did your son get taken from you? How did your son get taken from you? What happened? What's the story? You know, and so on and so forth. And so that's what prompted me to decide to do this live stream. I was like, you know what? I can sit down and I can share my whole story with everybody, put some socks on. And that way, people that don't know my story will know my story. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to share with you guys like from beginning to end and how I got to where I'm at today. So I have almost 9 years sober. I'll have 9 years sober July 13th. It's really important to me. My recovery is important to me. I wouldn't have anything that I have today if I hadn't gotten off drugs. Okay, like straight up, point blank, period, end of story. I used drugs for almost 20 years of my life. I started using drugs when I was about 16 and a half years old, and I didn't get sober until I was 31 or 32, however many years that is. So I was in addiction for like many, many, many years. All right. So I really want people to understand that the things that I have in my life today, everything that I have is because I worked my ass off to get it. I have never gotten a handout from anybody. I don't have rich parents. I don't have, I didn't hit the lottery. I didn't have like a friend on social media who gave me a hand up. Like everything that I've done on my own from the bottom up, working one day at a time, little by little, every single day. Okay? Every single thing. And to me, that's important because it makes me really appreciate what I have. Shout out really fast before we get started into the story, y'all. These fucking Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lip Oils, bitch, I am fucking obsessed, okay? Y'all know that I have a problem with lip gloss, all right? I have a lip gloss addiction, all right? These, I'm obsessed. They're so juicy. They're not sticky. This one is the color Mixed Berries. It's just like a light color. So juicy, so glossy. Ugh, I'm obsessed. If you're wondering why my skin is glowing, it's because I know you see that glow. The reason my skin is glowing is because I use my best friend's skincare line, and it's a retinol skincare. And so this is a retinol glow. What is on my cheeks is a little bit of Charlotte Tilbury Cream Blush. I don't have any foundation on. All I have on is moisturizer and sunblock with a cream blush and, of course, my Fenty Beauty How Many Carats on my eyes. So, okay, let's get into the story, y'all. Y'all ready? Are y'all ready? Okay? I'm telling you right now, trigger warning. Trigger motherfucking warning. I don't want to hear no crying about, Nicole made me want to use drugs. Bitch, sign off if you can't handle it. Get off my live. Okay? because I'm fixing to tell it like it is. I ain't gonna sugarcoat it for y'all. Okay, this ain't no AA meeting, bitches. Okay? So if you can't handle it, get the fuck up out of my life. Because I'm fixing to tell it like it motherfucking was, is, and always will be the truth. Okay? Okay. So let's get into it. All right. So first and foremost, my name is Nicole Pludre, formerly known as Nicole DeMayo. Okay? When I was growing up as a little girl, my mom is Mexican and my dad is Italian, hence the natural tan. I haven't even been out in the sun this summer yet, y'all. Okay? So growing up as a little girl, my mom's Mexican, my dad's Italian. I grew up in a town called Hot Springs, Arkansas. Now, I wasn't born there. I was actually born in Long Island, New York. My mom and dad met in the Air Force and fell in love. They were actually fighting over the last piece of pizza. Yeah, a bitch likes to eat. Y'all know I struggle with my weight, and I have been sharing with you guys my health journey, right? Well, this is where my struggles come from. My genetics. Okay, both of my parents are big backs. They love to eat. They're both in shape, and they both keep themselves in shape, but they got big back mentality. You know what I'm saying? We love to fucking eat. And so my mother and father were both in the Air Force. They were stationed to Jacksonville Air Force Base here in Arkansas. My mom is from California and my dad is from New York. And that's how they met, was in the Air Force, stationed at Jacksonville Air Force Base, fighting over the last piece of pizza. So my mom and dad started dating and got together, and they had me. They were living in my grandma's basement in Long Island, New York. My mom said it was like 9 o'clock at night. It was a blizzard outside, snowing like hell, because I was born March 8th. I'm a Pisces. And it was snowing like nobody's business, and she went into labor with me and had me around 9 o'clock at night on March 8th. So the reason why I'm telling you about like my ethnic background and a little bit about like what I am is because it's going to be important to know about some insecurities that I had when I was younger. Okay. So after I was born, my parents decided that they wanted to move out of my grandmother's house, and they wanted to start a family. And so they decided to lay down roots in Arkansas. And that's when my two other sisters came along. So I'm the oldest of three girls. I'm Nicole, then I have my sister Michelle. I'm 42, my sister Michelle is 40, and my baby sister Christine is 39. So my mom and my dad were popping kids out like nobody's business. And honestly, when I look back on my mom, she was super mom, okay? How she had kids so close together and didn't lose her ever-loving mind, like, I don't know how parents did it back then. I do feel like it was like a lot different back in the day. There was a lot more support. But like my mom was hitting it. So my mom and dad decided that when we were young that my mom was going to be a stay-at-home mom, at least until we started school, so that way she could be at home with us. And so my mom immediately got us into a church and raised us in a church, Pentecostal church. Yeah, can you believe that? I was Pentecostal, okay? Growing up, I couldn't cut my hair. I couldn't wear earrings. I couldn't wear makeup. I couldn't wear pants. I couldn't wear shorts. The only kind of shorts I could wear were culottes. Who's heard of culottes? Okay? And so, growing up, when I started school, I was immediately made fun of because I was different than everybody else. Because I was the girl that came to school whose mom sewed all my clothes. And just let me tell you this. My mom is a master seamstress. And so it's not like I was wearing janky ass sewn up clothes. I'm just saying they weren't name brand. You know what I mean? And so from a very young age, I like started to feel insecure and feel like really different than everybody else. You know what I mean? I felt like, you know, all my other friends were wearing like clothes from the mall and name brand clothes. And those were things that little kids pointed out and noticed back then, you know? And so early on, at a young age, I struggled with being really insecure. I also struggled with being insecure because I went to a predominantly white school, and I was very, very, very tan when I was little. I was always out in the sun, so I would get super, super dark. And so I felt really different. I just felt different than everybody else. I really struggled with that insecurity, you guys. But those insecurities wouldn't start having a negative impact on my life until I got older. So let me get you to the point where I got a little bit older. So growing up, my parents are still married to this day. I had a great family unit. My mom and dad both raised me and my sisters to the best of their ability. We went to church. I was involved in hella extracurricular activities. I was in dance. I was on the basketball team. I played fast pitch softball. And I was in the marching band. I was second chair clarinet. Like, I'm telling you guys, like, I was very active in when I was a kid growing up. And so the reason why I'm telling you guys this is because a lot of people think, what went wrong? Why did she become addicted to drugs? Well, I want to set the tone for y'all and let y'all know. It wasn't anything that anyone did. It wasn't my mom's fault. It wasn't my parents' fault. They raised me good. They gave me every opportunity to have an amazing life. Okay, so I really want you guys to hear what I have to hear me out on that point. So growing up, the insecurity started to weigh in on me, and I started to struggle with my weight at around 14 years old. Okay, my mom and dad decided that we were going to switch churches. Okay. We switched churches to a non-denominational church, okay? Yeah, I played clarinet. So that way I could wear pants. You guys, this was such a big deal for me because I was able to I was able to go out and get the jabots. Do y'all remember jabots? Okay, jabot jeans were so popular when I was growing up. All my girlfriends had jabot jeans, okay? But I couldn't wear jeans because I wasn't allowed to wear pants. So when we switched out of this Pentecostal, really strict religion, we switched into a non-denominational church. And I was able to wear regular clothes like everybody else. And I got my first pair of jabot jeans. I will never forget it. They were black. I had a button up the front shirt that went with them. That was also jabot. That was like stripes. And I wore the shit out of this outfit, you guys, because I thought I was the coolest thing since sliced fucking bread. Okay? But probably around, like I said, 14 or 15, I started to look at all my girlfriends. Now, a lot of the reasons why I thought I was fat was because I was developing way quickly. All my girlfriends, no offense, white girls, I love y'all, but all my girlfriends were flat-chested white girls, okay? And I was over here with D's by the time I was in 7th grade, 6th grade, 5th grade, okay? I started my period in 5th grade in front of everybody. I had no idea. I was sitting in my seat. I went to get up and there was blood. And I was like, oh my God. I was mortified. So here I am. I got boobs. I got body. And I'm hanging out with all my little friends who are like I said, sticks. And I felt so insecure. I felt fat. I felt ugly. I felt just not pretty at all. I wanted to be blonde. I wanted to be white. I wanted to take my tan off and scrub my skin because I thought it was such a bad thing because all my friends didn't look like me. I looked different. It bothered me so much. And I remember sitting down with my mom and dad and being ashamed because people were making fun of me. People were calling me taco, burrito, wetback, spick, go across the border. And I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed and I was so ashamed to be tan. And I remember my dad sitting me down and him saying, Nicole, I swear to God, my dad's from New York. He has a really thick accent. I swear to God, when you get older, you're going to look back on this time and you're going to be like, damn, them bitches are paying to look like me. Girls are going to be laying in the tanning bed for hours and days and this, that, and the third just to get a tan to look like you. You know what I mean? And I was just like, But when you're a kid, you don't think like that, right? All I could think about was how all my friends, I didn't look like any of my friends. Okay, I think I had one girlfriend once I got a little bit older. I got into the 8th and 9th grade. I had a girlfriend, Jessica. She was also Mexican. She was also tan. And that was when, like, I started to realize, wow, like, being tan, having a natural tan is beautiful. It's something that people envy and want. But when I was younger, I didn't realize that, and I felt really, really insecure. So all through, from kindergarten till about 8th grade, I'm struggling with this, like, internal hatred for myself, right? I don't realize that I have natural beauty. I don't realize that as I grow older, my weight I will thin out. You know, like, I haven't hit puberty yet. Around, like, 5th grade is right when I started to hit puberty and started to, like, grow into my body and stuff. And so all these changes are, like, having a really hard impact on me. I don't know how to manage it. And to add a lot of chaos to what was going on in our life, back when I was growing up, you guys, they didn't talk about mental health like they do now, okay? And so in my family, there was a big family, how do I say this? There was, like, my sister was struggling. My sister, Michelle, was undiagnosed bipolar, okay? And we did not know. We didn't know what bipolar was, okay? We didn't know what autism was. We didn't know what ADHD was. This is back in the late 80s, early 90s, okay? And so my sister was struggling with undiagnosed bipolar disorder. And the way that was manifesting itself in our family was my sister was running away from home. My sister was fighting people at school, like going to school and punching bitches in the face and getting suspended. My sister was being promiscuous. And so I'm the older sister. I go to school. Michelle gets kicked out that day. I have to go home and come home and be at home with my sister because my sister just got kicked out of school. Or I get called down to the office because my sister just beat a bitch in the fucking hallway in 7th grade, 8th grade, right? And so, like, a lot of chaos was starting to happen, and it was because my family didn't know what to do. My mom didn't know what to do. My dad didn't know what to do. None of us knew how to help my sister. And so when this was happening, I had just gotten to the 8th grade. When this was happening, I started seeking out ways to escape as well. Okay, so I started hanging out with people that were smoking weed. I started drinking alcohol. I started going to parties after school and lying to my parents. Even though I was really heavily into all these extracurricular activities, like, I would go after I would be done cheering at the game, I would go to the parties after the game and drink tons and tons of alcohol and get so drunk. And I'm not talking about, like, having a couple of beers. I'm talking about I'm a teenager doing keg stands, okay? And I'm not talking about little parties. I'm talking about the Piercy Creek parties. I'm talking about bonfires outside. We were out there till 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, okay? Throwing down in the country, okay? It was a lot of partying. And so while my sister was struggling with her mental health, my parents didn't know what to do, and they didn't know how to help her. So my mom and dad, their hands were tied, because what started to happen was the state of Arkansas came down on my mother and father and said, if you don't make sure that your daughter goes to school, then we are going to take her from you. Okay? And so this is what happens to families when they have a mental health crisis with a teenager and they don't know what to do. Then the parents can be held liable for that. So my mother and father had to fence petition my sister. And a fence petition is when basically the state takes custody, or you still have guardianship of your child, but the state is responsible for them. So that's when my sister, hey Lauren, what's up, girl? That's when the state placed my sister in juvenile jail. And this started like it was just terrible, you guys. It was, my sister was struggling so bad, and it was all mental health related. It was all undiagnosed mental health. My sister was hitting puberty and losing her mind because of bipolar disorder. So they're placing my sister in juvenile jail. It is ripping my family to shreds. My mother and father are fighting. I'm getting high. I'm running around and I'm getting high. I'm doing methamphetamine. I'm smoking crack. I'm drinking alcohol. I'm smoking weed, while my parents are preoccupied trying to save my sister from herself, you know? And back then, when that was happening, did I think I'm going to go fuck up because my sister's fucking up right now and my parents won't know? No, I just didn't know how to cope. I didn't know what to do. I was so scared for my sister. And a lot of the ways that my sister's bipolar would manifest towards me and my other sister was my sister would try to attack us. She would chase us with butcher knives. She would try to kill us. We would be getting ready for school in the morning, and my mom would go to wake her up to get ready to go to school, and she would try to murder our family because of that. It was the scariest shit I've ever been through. If you've ever been through this with a person who struggles with severe mental health disorders, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And because my sister would go into these manias, she would stay up for days in a manic episode and then have psychosis. And then she would do substances on top of that. So none of my mom and dad did the best that they knew how. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to save my sister. At one point, they placed her in a mental institution. And I believe that they wish they had never done that, because my sister was in this mental institution for 6 months. And when we went to go visit her, she couldn't even talk. They had her on so many medications. They had my sister turned into a zombie. So I'm a high schooler, and my sister is in a mental institution, and my mom and dad don't know how to handle it or how to save her, and I'm using drugs behind my parents' back. And then my baby sister Christine just kind of got lost in the shuffle. She was just trying to manage her life, and at that time, my baby sister Christine was struggling, realizing that she was a lesbian and hadn't came out to any of our family yet. I always knew my sister was a lesbian since the day she was able to really be who she wanted to be. I always knew she was a lesbian, but she wasn't able to share that because she was struggling with her spiritual and her relationship with God. My sister was very, very involved in the church. She was a youth minister, so you can imagine how much she was struggling with her sexuality and being able to tell our family. And then my sister Michelle is struggling with her mental health. I'm doing drugs. Like, it was just such a hard time for my whole family. Like, when I think back to it, I think, damn, how do we make it out of that? How do we make it out of that with none of us dying? You know? But we did. We made it out, and we're all sober. I'm sober. My sister Michelle is sober. My baby sister Christine is married to the love of her life, a beautiful woman that she's been with for over 10 years. Like, we all have great lives now. But back then, it was so scary, and I didn't think we were ever going to make it out of there. So by the time I hit a junior in high school, I was fully addicted to methamphetamine. I was using methamphetamine to go to school. I was using methamphetamine at my job. I was using benzodiazepines at my job. I was just using drugs all the time. But it hadn't gotten to a point where where I was losing control yet. It was just getting started. So I'll never forget my senior year, my grandmother flew down from New York, okay, to come see me graduate, because she was so proud, because I was the first daughter, the first person to graduate high school in our family, besides, daughter. My dad, my grandmother had 2 kids, my dad and my uncle. My Uncle Joey didn't have any kids. And so my grandmother was like really excited that I was graduating high school. So she came down to see me walk across the stage. You guys, when I tell you, I barely passed my senior year. I went from being an A-B student to barely passing my senior year. I walked across the stage with all B's. And I remember my dad, he was so disappointed in me. He said, yeah, she barely made it. All D's for DeMayo, because that was our last name, DeMayo, you know. And I was high on meth at my high school graduation. So the way that I decided to start using meth, let me take y'all back for a second. You remember when I was telling you guys around the age of 14, 15, I started to struggle with my weight. I started to feel like I was so fat. And let me really, really make this clear for y'all. I wasn't fat. I wasn't fat at all. I wasn't even overweight. Okay? But somehow, some way, at the age of 16 years old, I was able to go to my doctor and talk him into giving me a medication to help me lose weight. And he prescribed me phentermine. How many of y'all, my bitches will know about phentermine. How many of y'all know about phentermine? Okay, back in the day, this medication was given out like candy, all right? So I started taking phentermine. You guys might know it as Adipex, Fen, whatever. But I started taking phentermine, and this is before I even put meth in my body, okay? I started taking phentermine at 16 years old, and the minute I took phentermine, it was like, this is what it was like. I took phentermine, it kicked in, and all of a sudden it was like this. It was like the sun fucking shined down on me, bitch, and Jesus himself kissed my forehead. Okay? I had energy. I could do all my homework. I could do all my extracurricular activities. It literally made me feel like I was super fucking woman. Well, the doctor wouldn't give it to me for only I only got it for 2 months. But those 2 months, to me, I was like, this is what I need. This is what I've been lacking in my life all these years. All these years, I have struggled with being able to focus. I have struggled with being able to stay on task. I don't, y'all can tell me, but I struggled. And this medication helped me focus. It helped me stay on task. It helped me get things done. Like, I just felt like a better version of myself when I took phentermine, right? So when I couldn't get the medication prescribed to me anymore, that's when I started looking for other options, okay? And at this time, back in the 90s, you could still go to the gas station or Walmart and buy Mini-Thins. You could buy Herbalife. You could buy that Anna Nicole Smith diet pill. And all these diet pills had one thing in common. They had ephedra in them. This was before ephedra was banned, okay? And if you guys know anything about ephedra, you know that it's used to manufacture methamphetamine. Okay, so this medication gives you a stimulant-like effect, right? And so I would go and I would purchase these over-the-counter diet pills, and that was my fix now. So I became addicted to over-the-counter diet pills at 16 years old, all right? Around 1999, 2000, I think, is when it shifted, and they outlawed ephedrine, and they took it out of all these pills. So now I'm buying the pills, and they're not fucking working. That's when I switched over to methamphetamine. I had already started dabbling with cocaine and using drugs and partying, but I switched over, and I did the full switch whenever they took ephedrine out of the regular pills. Because to me, in my mind, they were pills I was buying over the counter, so it couldn't be that bad. It wasn't an addiction. It wasn't a big deal because they were just over the counter diet pills. And that was how I justified it in my mind. But when I made the switch to illegal drugs, to methamphetamine, I knew that I had a problem. But I couldn't stop. I was already in. You know what I mean? I was already in too deep. I needed methamphetamine to function. I needed these drugs to function. And not only was I using methamphetamine, but I was using benzos, I was using cocaine, I was using alcohol. Like, I had become just a trash can drug addict. I just wanted to escape the way I felt on the inside. And like I said, if you listen to my story from the beginning, the insecurity, the low self-esteem, the lack of self-worth, I just wanted to feel different. I wanted to feel good about myself. And when I took drugs, I felt good. I didn't feel like I was nobody. I didn't feel like I was ugly or a loser. I didn't feel all these horrible feelings that I felt in my mind and that I would tell myself all the time, you know? But using drugs started to take over my whole life. When I graduated high school, I knew that I needed to get a job. One thing about my dad is that he is going to harp on you until you do what you need to do. And so, even though I was a full-blown drug addict by the time I was a senior in high school and graduated, my dad was still going to harp on me about getting a job, about making sure that I paid my credit card bills, about making sure that I paid my insurance. Like, he stayed on me, okay? And he instilled in me the importance of making sure that I stayed on top of stuff like that, you know? So even though I was struggling with addiction, I still had a full-time job. I still made sure I was paying my car payment. I still made sure I was paying my insurance, and I made sure that I was paying my credit card bills at the beginning. Listen to what happened. So at 18 years old, I get out of high school. I buy my own brand new car. It was a 2001 blue Ford Focus. I worked all summer long at Sonic to put down $5,000 on this car. Okay, my dad co-signed for it for me, and I bought the car and I started working. I started working at JCPenney as a makeup artist. This was back when JCPenney had like their own makeup department and everything. And they were training me. I would do makeovers, I would do prom makeup. It was so much fun, you guys. When I tell you, I loved this job. I flourished at this job. And so, but I was high using meth. And so I'll never forget it. This lady came in and she was going to be in a bikini contest, okay? And she wanted her makeup done like really natural, but like to bring out her natural beauty. And so I did that. She had the most beautiful long brown hair with big brown doe eyes. And I did everything to make her look like she didn't have makeup on, but she did. You know what I mean? She won that bikini contest and she came back the next day and gave me $100 tip. And I was like, damn, I'm good. Well, I'm tweaking my balls off, right? And so at this time, I had started to hang out with a bunch of tweakers, okay? Up until this point, I was just like buying drugs from people. I wasn't like hanging out with people like that. I was just hanging out with like my girlfriends from high school and shit like that. But once I graduated high school, this is when I really started infiltrating and diving deep into the world of methamphetamine. Okay, my parents were starting to get really fed up with me because I wasn't coming home. Okay, I would go to work and then I would stay out till 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, come home, get ready for work, and then leave. Like, they were just holding my clothes there at the house. And if you know anything about my mom and dad, that's not how life works. Like, there's rules, right? And so very early on, they told me if I wasn't going to follow their rules, I had to get the fuck out, right? And so I had nowhere to go. I had nowhere to live. So what did I do? I started sleeping over at the dope cook's house, okay? I started sleeping over at my homeboy's house who was manufacturing methamphetamine in Hot Springs. And so this was like a problem because now I have access to methamphetamine whenever I need it, right? And so I'm going to work and I'm high. And then people are coming to my job who are also in the game. And this is where I started fucking up. I started to do things that I always told myself that I would never do. And that was things like steal. Okay? So I started selling products to people out of the store for drugs. So they didn't pay me money. They just gave me the drugs, and I gave them the product, and they walked out of the fucking JCPenney. So eventually what ended up happening was I got caught up. They caught me. They caught me stealing and giving products away. And they fired me. Oh my gosh, you guys, when I lost that job, I was so upset because I really, really loved that job. But I ended up getting another job right after that. I started working at Shoe Carnival as a store, like assistant floor supervisor. So when I was working at Shoe Carnival, I started dating this guy. Well, I met this guy. First, let me tell you how I met him. I was over at a friend's house. We were all getting high on meth. And this guy came out from the back bedroom. And he had like really chiseled jawline, dark hair, green eyes. And I thought, God damn, he's fine. Well, little did I know, he had just come out of the back room from shooting up. And at this point, I had never shot up drugs. And I was totally against shooting up. Right? Of course I put them as a reference. I didn't give a fuck. I never had a problem getting jobs, which is so crazy because like I should have never been able to get hired again. But I don't know if I put them down as a reference. I'm just teasing, but I probably did. I don't know. But he had just come out from the back bedroom and done a shot of meth. I had never shot up at this point, and I was totally against it. I thought only nasty people shot up. You had to be junkie, da-da-da-da-da. Like, I had this, like, in my mind, I was a high-class drug addict. In my mind, I was better than people that did that kind of stuff. I would just wait and see, honey. So, this guy's name was LD, and I thought he was so cute. So, I ended up giving him my phone number, and so many people reached out to me and told me, Nicole, do not hook up with this guy. Nicole, he beats his girlfriends, okay? And I was like, whatever, he won't do that to me. I'm different. I started dating him, and within the first 6 months of us dating, he threw my car into oncoming traffic because we had an argument in the car. We were driving. I was driving. We had an argument. I smacked him. And his reaction to me smacking him was to grab the steering wheel of my car and throw us into oncoming traffic, where we had a basically head-on collision and almost killed the people that we hit and all this bullshit. He fled the scene and left me there. And you know what I did? Did I think, oh, that's terrible, he left me here? No. I left the scene as well and went running after him. Okay? If this tells you anything about how low my self-esteem was, that I was chasing after this, 1, homeless, 2, jobless motherfucker. Okay? He didn't have a home. He didn't have a job. He was on probation. All kinds of bullshit. And I was chasing him down after him. Once he did that to me, the floodgates opened, and he started beating my ass. It started out with little things, like grabbing food and shoving it in my face, right, in front of all of our friends. Little things like that. It started out with things like throwing things at me. He threw a sippy cup full of milk at my head, busted my head open, split it open, blood everywhere. I had to get stitches. That's what this little right here is, okay? And then he just started full-on punching me, bouncing my head off the concrete in the garage. And I had taken this motherfucker from homeless, like I said, nowhere to live, to us moving into a one-bedroom efficiency, to us moving into our own nice trailer, fully furnished, okay, to us getting a nicer, even bigger double-wide trailer, okay? I was working 3 jobs. I was working at Shoe Carnival at one point, at a gas station, and Sonic. Then I left Shoe Carnival, I resigned, and I got a job working for the state of Arkansas. And I stayed working my 2 part-time jobs at Sonic and the gas station. All while this fool drove around my car and worked maybe 20 hours a week. I went through this with this dude for 6 fucking years. For 6 years, I let this fool play me like a fiddle. Because like I said, from the beginning of the story, I had low self-esteem, didn't think I was pretty, didn't think I was good enough, and then on top of that, I had a raging drug addiction. And so did he. And so us both struggling with drug addiction as well, that made it even easier for him to manipulate me and to take from me. You know, I put this motherfucker in a car. When I think back to all the things I funded him, I just like, and this is where all my credit card debt came in. And I was working all these jobs to stay afloat, to pay all this credit card debt that I had incurred because I was putting this guy in a new car. I was buying him a TV for his office room that we had in the house. I was doing this, I was doing that, I was buying this, I was buying that. And I was working all these jobs just to stay afloat. I'll never forget it. One night I came home. I was really high. I had taken a bunch of methadone, wafers, and Xanax, which please do not do this if you are in active addiction. You can die, okay? And I had come home. He was not home. I passed out. And every night when I would get home from work, I would take off all my jewelry. And I had a bunch of diamonds. I love diamond jewelry, okay? I had a bunch of diamond jewelry back then. I liked to buy nice things. I would put him in nice things. And so I had taken all my jewelry off and I had passed out and went to sleep. I woke up the next morning and he wasn't there. And I was like, where is he at? I was calling his sister, asking his dad if he had saw him because his dad lived with us. Nobody's seen him. Then I go to get my jewelry and it's gone. All my jewelry was gone. Finally, I got a hold of his sister, and his sister said to me, Nicole, he's not coming back. He's with Ashley. And he had left to go be with another girl. And I remember crying and begging for him to come back to me. Even though he was beating my ass on the daily and using me for everything that I had. And so you can imagine my drug addiction was terrible. But at this point, I went nosedive, tailspin. I went to Walmart. I was getting a bunch of boxes for me and my friend Nikki. She was going to help me move out. And I saw these 4 guys at the Walmart. They had big, giant Dodge trucks, big old cowboys. And I walked up to them and I said, hey, what's up, guys? I'm in a domestic violence relationship and I need to escape. Will you guys help me move all my stuff out of my trailer right now? And these 4 strangers that I had never met in my whole entire life followed me to that trailer and helped me pack every single thing in that trailer. Everything. I took everything. Bitch, you know I did. I packed I took the doorknobs off the motherfucking doors, okay? I took the light bulbs out of the damn sockets. I took everything and cleaned it out. And I left and I moved in with my friend Nikki. And my friend Nikki was also on drugs, so that was just a downward spiral. I ended up losing my job working for the state of Arkansas. I can't really talk about that because it was some felonious ass shit and that's a federal crime. But let's just say I was helping people with IDs. Okay? If you know what I'm saying. So I ended up losing my job at the revenue office. And when I lost my job at the revenue office, I went even further down in a hole. Because I just felt like everything that I had going for me, I was losing it. I was over at my friend's house. My friend Nate, the one who cooked methamphetamine, we were over at his trailer one night. And I was sitting in the living room. And every night, I would sit in the living room after he would get done boofing a batch off. And I would do my hot rails, because that's how I like to do meth. I like to do hot rails. And every night, him and like 4 other people would go in the back bedroom. And they would all go in the back bedroom. And then they would come out. And they would all be bugging. I'm talking like so much higher than I was. eyes bugging out of their head. And so one night, this night in particular, I was so depressed. I was so sad. I felt like everything in my life was falling apart. I decided I was going to go back to the back bedroom with him that night. And I went back to the back bedroom with him that night. And that's when I seen all of them sitting down, fixing up, tying off, mixing their meth up in the spoons, drawing back their shots. And I was like, I want to do that. And they were like, no, Nicole, no, 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 no. You don't want to do this. You don't need to do this, Nicole. You have a family that loves you. We're trying to talk me out of it, right? This is something that you don't need to do. This is not good for you. And I looked at them and I said, if you don't do it for me, I will do it. I will find a way and I will do it to myself. And so that night is the night that my friends decided to give me a 40-unit shot of methamphetamine for my first time ever shooting up. And I say friends in quotation marks. And I became addicted to shooting up that night. The moment that shit went into my body, I became 100% hooked. That moment. The moment it hit my bloodstream, I had the big O. You guys can use your mind and understand what the O is, okay? And I never wanted to stop. That day is the day I became addicted to the needle. And I locked myself in the bathroom that night and I practiced shooting up for 8 hours. I sat in that bathroom pulling back blood and registering to teach myself how to inject so I wouldn't have to depend on anybody else to do it. And that is the day I became 100% strung out on methamphetamine to the 10th degree times a million. That's the day I sold my soul. That's the day I lost any self-respect for myself. That's the day everything didn't matter. I would do anything for a shot. Anything. I would lie. I would cheat. I would steal. I would sleep with you. I would suck you. I would do anything to get that drug in that needle. It was the worst decision I ever made in my whole entire life. Was the day that I shot up. And that was in the year 2008. I didn't get sober until 2015. Okay? So 7 more years of fucking shooting up drugs. A lot of people say to me, well, I thought you were addicted to opioids too. I was. It's coming. Gotta give me time to get there. So within 6 months of my first shot of methamphetamine, I caught a charge for possession of a controlled substance. 6 months from the day. I was pulled over. I was riding with my friend Quincy. I say friend. I was riding with this dude who I got high with. He was driving my car. And we were spun and done, bitch. I mean, like, I was so fucking high, my neck was rolling around. I looked like fucking crazy, right? Jaw jacking, everything. And we were driving down the street on Woodlawn Avenue in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And he ran a motherfucking stop sign. I didn't know this. I thought we were high and just dancing around. He ran a stop sign. Cops saw us, pulled us over. Knew he was a felon. Knew that he was a drug user. Searched our vehicle, searched me. I had a syringe in my purse that had residue in it. Okay? Fucking residue, y'all. And I got charged with possession of a controlled substance. I ended up getting probation. They placed me on probation for 3 years. I failed miserably. Okay? I failed every single drug test that they gave me. At this time, I was trying to stop using meth, so I had started using methadone and Xanax all the time. And don't ask me what my thought process was in using opioids instead of meth. But I was just trying anything I could to get away from meth because I felt like meth was the reason why I was having all my problems. No, the reason why I was having all my problems is because of all drugs. Because I could not stop using all drugs, not just meth. It was any drug. Okay? But while I was on probation for that first year, I pissed dirty every time except the first time. The first time I passed. Every time after that, I pissed dirty. And I'll never forget it. It was right before she revocated me. She said, I'm going to give you one last chance, Nicole. And she sent me to treatment. I went to treatment. I did my little 30 days. And this is something about me, y'all. I went to treatment many times, okay? I've been to treatment like 10 times, okay? And I'll go into treatment. I'll do my little 30 days. I'll come out. And I'll want to change. I want to change with everything in me. I'll do everything they tell me to do. I comply. I follow the rules. I go to the meetings. I call my sponsor. I do the big book. I live in the sober living. Everything. Okay? But I always relapse around the 6-month mark. Every single time. So she put me in rehab. I came out. And I didn't even make it 30 days. And I was relapsed. I go in for a check-in. She sees that I'm getting high still, and she revocates me. She revocates me and sends me to prison. And so at that time, I think I had to do like 6 months in prison. I did 90 days in county jail and 6 months in the prison. So it was like 9 months total. I did 9 months locked up. I'll never forget my mom and dad coming to visit me at prison. My dad was so upset, you guys. He was like, I can't believe that I'm visiting my daughter in prison. You know? I was strung out. I had a problem. And drugs were the problem. I can't use drugs in a way responsibly. Some people can. I can't do that. Okay? And so any issue that I ever had was because of my substance use. So I did my time in prison, and when I was getting ready to come out, I thought I was going to go back to Hot Springs where my mom and dad were at. So I called my probation officer, and I told her, can I parole out to my parents' address? And that's when my probation officer looked at me and she said, you're banned. You're banned from Garland County. And I was like, what? I'm what? She said, you're banned from this county. You can't come back. That's where my family lives. That's where any support system I have lives, right? Sorry for you. You ain't allowed to come back. So then I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I have to set myself up for success. And so that's when I decided I'll parole out to a sober living house in Little Rock, Arkansas. And so this started my journey in Little Rock, okay, where I live now, which I am so glad I moved here, you guys. It was a great decision. Even though I didn't get sober and stay sober right away, it was a good decision. So I moved here to Little Rock in 2010, and I moved into a sober living house. And I was trying to stay sober, you guys. Like, I was doing it. I was staying sober. I was going to meetings. I got a job working at Kroger. I was working my ass off. I got promoted to assistant deli manager. I was making really good money. I was doing all kinds of stuff with Kroger. Kroger was taking me on trips with them to go to like other states and like redo their Kroger stores there. Like, I was doing really, really good. I made it to 9 months sober. And there was a girl who moved in to the apartment beside me. I lived in the sober living apartments. I went from the sober living and I graduated up to the next level, which is these apartments. So this girl that lived beside me, her name was Ashley. She's passed away now. But she was in a relapse and she was shooting up Roxy's. I had never shot up Roxy's. I had only ever snorted or eaten my opioid pills. And so she had asked me to come over that day, and I went over not knowing she was in the relapse and she needed help shooting up. I had 9 months sober. And that's all it took was for me to see her shooting up that Roxy. And I said, bitch, let me get one of them Roxy's. And she taught me how to shoot up Roxy's. I had never shot up a Roxy before. I shot up that Roxy that day with 9 months sober and decided that from that day forward, I was going to shoot up Roxy's until the day I died. And so now I'm in a new city, and I'm shooting up Roxy's, Dilaudid's, morphine, and fentanyl patches. Anything that I could get that was an opioid that would go in a syringe. Now, being strung out on opioids is a lot different than being strung out on meth. When you run out of meth, yeah, you feel like shit, but like you're not sick fiending, right? I didn't realize about withdrawal, really. I had been using opioids for a couple of years, but not to the point where I was experiencing really bad withdrawal. And so once I started shooting up, that's when I realized, holy shit, if I don't have these pills, I feel like I am going to fucking die. I feel like we would suck the gel out of the fentanyl patches. I'm not going to tell y'all how to do it now. Come on. But back in the day, that's what we did. Because there wasn't fentanyl on the streets like there is now. You had to get it from an old lady in a patch. But anyway, the withdrawal that I would feel if I didn't have opiates every single day, like my face was coming off, my bones were breaking in half. I was, like, when I tell you the diarrhea that was shooting out of my body, oh my God. Like, up until this point, like, I really didn't experience withdrawal. But damn, this was hard fucking core, man. And so guess what? Like I said, I'm a resourceful ass bitch. I worked a lot of hours. I had money. I made sure I stayed stacked with Roxy's, right? Now, don't get me wrong. There was times where I would go to the dope man's house or go to my dealer's house, and he wouldn't have any. And so I would have to improvise and find other ways. And that's when I would go to get things like methadone, or Dilaudid's or whatever. But for the most part, I was banging Roxy's. And I became strung out on Roxy's and methamphetamine. I would use Roxy's in the evening time, and I would use methamphetamine in the mornings to get up. And I was barely hanging on to my life, y'all. I was barely keeping my job. Okay? Bless her heart. My boss, Miss Brewer, she watches my Facebook. She follows me. Kathy, you are the real MVP. Okay? Miss Brewer had my back, dude. Her son also struggled with substance use disorder, so she gave me so many chances. She didn't fire me. She helped me get into treatment. She could have just fired me. It would have been a lot easier. It would have been a lot easier to just fire me and to be done with me, right? I was chaos. I was hell on fucking wheels, okay? I was hallucinating frying batches of chicken in the Kroger deli, okay? I was a fucking liability, man. I was a liability. And she gave me chance after chance after chance after chance. So, I'm getting all these chances. Like I said, I'm frying batches of chicken and hallucinations. I'm going to tell y'all a story real fast. So I had been up for some days on oxys and meth, and I think like 4 or 5 days, and I don't even know how I drove to my job. That's how bad it was, okay? And I was at work. Mr. Bobby was there, sweet little black man that I worked with. And I was frying chicken. I had to fry 100-piece chicken. And that was a normal order at Kroger. Like, people would order 100 pieces of fried chicken, bitch. And when I tell you, they want their fried chicken fresh and crispy. Okay? So I'm frying 100-piece batch of fried chicken in full-fledged meth psychosis. Meth fucking psychosis, okay? Talking to people that aren't there. I will never forget it. Mr. Bobby walked over to me. He said, Nicole, baby, you're talking to people that are not here. I'm going to cover for you. Go home and get some sleep. Go home and get some sleep. You know? I was like, thank you so much for doing that for me. Because you guys, when I tell you, So many people could have just fucked me. They could have like called the law on me. So many people gave me chance after chance after chance after chance that I didn't deserve. You know, yeah, I was a hard worker. I was a good worker. I always showed up for my job. I was consistent. I was dependable. But like, I was fucked up. I was so high. And these people looked out for me. They looked out for me. And you gotta also remember, like, I'm away from my family, so I didn't have my mom and dad. Like, these people are the people who would come to my house and bring me food because they knew I didn't have any food in my apartment. And so after I relapsed on Roxy's, eventually the sober living found out. They were like trying to hunt me down, you know? They were like, we know that she's using, we need a drug test. We need a drug test. We need a drug test. And so I didn't want to even give them a drug test, so I just went to the sober living office, to Miss Kim's office. Miss Kim follows me here on Facebook as well. Shout out to Kimberly motherfucking Blackshire, the fucking greatest of all time, fucking counselor, greatest of all time. Of all the treatment centers I've ever been to, this woman had the biggest impact on my life. This woman made me realize that I could get sober if I wanted to get sober. She made me realize that there was a life outside of drug addiction. Okay? And I remember, and I did her so dirty. I did her so dirty. I went to Miss Kim's office and just told her, you know, like, I'm moving out. And I left. And her daughter, I had just hired her daughter. Like I said, I worked a job. I was very dependable. I was a manager. I had just hired her daughter to work for me in the deli. And me and her daughter were really close. And I told her daughter, like, I relapsed. You know, I'm getting kicked out. I'm leaving the sober living. And her daughter even let me come live with her, you know. I paid her rent. Don't get me wrong. I paid her rent. That's one thing about me. I never lived anywhere for free, you guys. I always paid people what I owed them. I paid rent, and I moved in with Brittany, and I didn't even live with Brittany for like 6 months. It was way far out in North Little Rock. It just wasn't conducive, and so I ended up moving in with my friend Joe. Now, let me tell y'all about Joe, okay? The way that I met Joe was I was at the sober living, and he was outside, and he was so cute. And so I gave him my phone number, and we ended up hanging out. He was on federal probation, okay? And so he wasn't supposed to be coming to my house. Well, he came to my house one day. I'll never forget it. We were hooking up, and he took his leg off. Y'all, this man did not tell me he had a whole ass prosthetic leg. I had no idea, okay? That's how... Like, you wouldn't have never known. He was the most mobile motherfucker I've ever seen with one leg. So we're getting ready to do the do, right? And he takes his leg off. From the knee down, it's gone. Right? And I just remember, like, did this motherfucker just take his leg off? He just took his fucking leg off. You know? But this would start the love affair that I had for Joe Jackson. When I tell you I was in love with this motherfucker. Okay? I wanted to be his wife for like 3 years. Okay? And I stayed at his house. I would clean his apartment for him. Like, we were really, really, really close friends. We would have Sunday night, seafood Sunday nights where we would have movies and crab legs every Sunday night. Like, we had a really good friendship, but my drug addiction, of course, overshadowed that. My raging methamphetamine addiction caused me to act an ass. He took me, I'll never forget it, he took me to Jonesboro to meet his family and to meet his friends. And we were both using, he used as well, we were using methamphetamine together that night. And I got way too high. And when I tell you, I had to let him drive us home because I was hallucinating so bad that people were following us from Jonesboro back to Little Rock. It was the scariest shit, y'all. When we got back to his apartment, he was like, bitch, just go. Just go away from me because you are out of your damn mind. And this is what I'm telling y'all. People that I used drugs with who were also drug users were telling me, you're out of your damn mind. Okay? And I need you to understand the seriousness of this. Other junkies, other drug users are calling me out about my drug use because I'm out of control. I am out of control. That's why I tell you guys, I didn't just use, oh, let me just do a little, I'm shooting up the whole bag. I'm shooting up all the Roxys. I had no off switch when I used drugs. So I ruined our friendship. I ruined our friendship because of my addiction. And this is a pattern for me in my relationships during my drug addiction, is I would get so out of control with my drug use. People who used drugs with me would have to separate themselves from me because I was just out of fucking control, you know? So, it's 2012, and I am on a really big bender. I moved in with my friend Tara. You guys have all heard me talk about Tara. I moved in with my friend Tara and her daughter. Tara was also a drug user. We used drugs together. Okay? I go on a big bender, and I end up in meth psychosis in the hospital. I've been up for 5 days. I cannot go to sleep. I'm in the hospital because they found me walking down Baseline Road in Little Rock, Arkansas at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so they bring me into the hospital. And the doctor keeps asking me, are you using bath salts? Are you using bath salts? And I'm like, nah, man, I ain't using bath salts. I fucking did meth and oxys and Xanax. That's what I did. Meth, oxys, and Xanax. And so this doctor decides to give me a shot of Thorazine and a shot of Haldol, thinking this will knock her out. She'll go to sleep and she'll be fine. He comes back about 30, 45 minutes later after giving me this first shot of Thorazine and this first shot of Haldol. And bitch, I am licking the fucking walls. Okay? I am hallucinating that there are frogs all over the walls from South Africa, and they're excreting this juice from their back that makes you trip. So I'm licking the juice off. I am hallucinating that Cy from Duck Dynasty is coming out of the vents. I am hallucinating that Miss Marva, a lady I work with at Kroger, is smoking a crack pipe and blowing smoke to me underneath the crack of the door in the emergency room. So, bitch, I'm not asleep. And so they come back in and they give me another shot of Thorazine and another shot of Haldol. And then my body shuts down and I go into a coma for 7 days. I'm in a fucking coma. They call my parents. They're like, listen, your daughter's internal organs are shutting down and we don't know if she's going to wake up. She's in a coma. She's been in a coma for a day now. My mom and dad rushed to the emergency room to come be by my side. And I'm in a coma. I'm like dying, right? All of a sudden, 7 days later, bing, I open my eyes. And my mom looks down at me and she's like, do you know how long you've been in here? And I was like, no. She says, you've been in here, you've been in a coma for 7 days. 7 days, okay? And I remember my exact thought process when she told me that. Bitch, I need to get the fuck out of here because I got to get high. I don't want to be here. I got to get out of here. And that's what I did. I got out of there. I went and got my car from Gerald's house and I went and got high. My parents were begging me to come to treatment. Go to treatment. Please go to treatment. Go to treatment. Nope, I'm not. I'm getting high. I went back to Tara's house, told her what happened, told her, I'm getting high, and went off on a bender. Well, I think it was like 2 weeks had went by, and I decided, you know what? I think I want to go to treatment, right? So I went and put myself in treatment. Came out of treatment, decided it was not conducive for me to live with Tara anymore because she was still doing drugs. So I moved out, and that's when I met my husband, Neil. Now let me tell y'all something about Neil. He also struggled with addiction as well, but Neil was different than any guy I had met before. Neil he was cut from the same cloth I was cut from. His parents were both still married. He graduated high school, got his master's degree, graduated college and got a master's degree. He had a job. He worked hard. He was the same way I was. He was a hard worker. And he was a good person underneath all the problems that he struggled with addiction. He had a good heart. When we met, it was like, I swear to God, y'all, it was like I fell in love with him the moment I saw him. I knew I was going to marry him. I knew I was going to marry this man. All the way back in 2012. He said, do you want to come hang out with me tonight? Because we had been sitting on the couch at my girlfriend's house. I had moved in to sleep on my girlfriend Kaylee's couch. Let me tell you how I got into Kaylee's couch. Hold on. So I'm at Kroger, right? I'm at Kroger. And my car gets impounded. Let me tell you about that. So I'm driving to go get some Roxy's, me and my friend Gerald. And we go and we do us a shot in the parking lot of the car wash. Pull out of the parking lot, and we get pulled over. So you know me, I'm a fucking resourceful ass bitch. So I shove my syringe up into my punani, and the fucking police arrest Gerald and take him away because he has drugs on him. I have nothing on me. They can't find anything that I got, right? Because I got my prison pocket stuffed, okay? And I think I'm going to get back in my car and drive away. Bitch, when I tell you that fucking officer looked at me and she goes, you ain't got no car tags or registration. Your shit's expired. You're not driving away. And when I tell you, I had this car since the year 2000, and it was 2012, y'all. I had this car for 12 years. This car went through everything with me. Okay, this car went through everything. 12 years. And it got impounded. So, you know, beep, 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 boop, beep, boop, beep. Hey, Mom and Dad, I need you to get my car out of the impound.
I killed the sniper.
No. What? We're not getting it out for you, Nicole. Now, my parents had told me no many times about lots of things. But for some reason, I just didn't expect them to not help me get my fucking car out. But to me, this is what I think. My mom and dad knew that car was helping me get around to stay high on drugs. That car was my house at some moments in time when I didn't have somebody's couch to sleep on. That car was enabling me to continue my life in active addiction. And my mom and dad, as bad as they didn't want to let that car get impounded, they knew they had to stand on business and not let me have that fucking car. And so they were like, we're not getting it for you. And you're probably going, well, you had a job. Bitch, I had just literally given all my money to my drug dealer. Every Thursday, I would sign my check over to my drug dealer, y'all. That's how fucking in debt I was to the Roxy man. Okay? I didn't have no money except for to pay my rent to whoever I was living with, which was a couple $100. Everything else went to the drug dealer. Okay? So when I tell you, I couldn't get my car out of the impound. So I had to figure out another way to get something to do something with it. I wasn't going to just let the impound people get that. So I put it up for sale on Facebook Marketplace. And somebody hit me up. I said, listen, here's the deal. It's a one-owner vehicle. I've been the only person to drive that car for 12 years. It's got 100,000 miles on it. And I've changed the oil every 3,000 miles. I got the title. I got all the paperwork, right? The only catch is it's in the impound. So you got to pay the impound fee to get it out, plus whatever is left over. I wanted $3,000 for the car. So I think it was like $500 to get it out of the impound. She paid the impound, gave me $2,500, and I signed the title over that bitch. So now I got $2,500. So you know what a bitch did? I called my girl with a car and said, let's go get some Roxy's and some Zans. I gave my mom and dad $1,000, and I took $1,500 and bought all the Roxy's and Xanaxes I could. And woke up the next day in the emergency room because I had overdosed. What the fuck? When I tell y'all, I was a fucking glutton, okay, for punishment. I wake up and I'm like, where am I at? And they're like, you overdosed. Your girlfriend had to bring you in and drop you off. Back then, they didn't have Narcan that you could just up your nose. Okay? Back then, it wasn't like that. You had to go to the hospital. And so my girlfriend dropped me off at the hospital because I was overdosed. Because I would take a bunch of Xanax and then I would do a bunch of Roxys and overdose myself. And when I tell you guys, I did this so many times that the state of Arkansas, for the first 5 years I was with my husband, every income tax, they would take my taxes because I owed the hospitals so much money for overdosing. So much money. It's okay, Brent. I love telling my stories, okay? And I laugh and I get, because to me I was such a dumbass. So I have to laugh or else I'll cry if y'all haven't noticed that yet. Okay? I owed the state of Arkansas so much money in hospital bills that they took my taxes every single time for 5 years. Okay? That's how bad it was. So I overdosed. And the $1,500, I spent it all. It was gone. Literally, y'all. It was 2 days, I think, I was out on the streets getting high. And it was gone. Gone. I spent it all on Roxy's and Xanax. At this time, if y'all don't remember, Roxy's were $1 a milligram. It took me 3 Roxy's to get off. That's $90 to get high. To just get a little opioid buzz. Okay? If I really wanted to be good, I needed 6. Okay? And so my money was gone. Gone. So now I ain't got a car. So that's when I met Neil. And it was just so perfect how it lined up because Neil had a vehicle, right? So I still have my job at Kroger. Kaylee and Hunter, the way I got to sleeping on their couch was I was at Kroger one day and Hunter saw me and we knew each other from Narcotics Anonymous, actually from Cocaine Anonymous. Hunter walked up to me and he goes, hey girl, what's up? Don't we know each other? I was like, yeah. And somehow, some way, he was talking about needing a roommate. And then I was like, oh, you need a roommate because I need a place to live. And I was like, I got a job. I just don't have a car. If you can get me to my job every day, I'll pay you $400 a month to live on your couch. Deal. Boom. I moved in. I lived with them for like damn near 8 months, y'all. Okay? And I paid them every month, $400 every month. They got me to my job. I paid them the money. One night, I was like, let's have a party. I want to have some guys over. Because I was a hoe. So, I called up one of my booty calls, Casey. I was like, hey, Casey, bring some boys over. Let's hang out. Let's have a booty call. You know? And so, Casey brought over Neil and Corey. And that's when I met Neil. And Neil was so different than Casey or any of these other guys. Neil was like a good person. Like, I just don't know how to explain it any other way than, like, even though he struggled with addiction, he was, like, a man who opened the car door for me, paid for everything, made sure that I was taken care of, treated me like a lady, even though I was in active addiction. Now, y'all have to understand, all the relationships that I had before Neil treated me like a dope whore, treated me like a junkie. Neil treated me like a lady, like he cared about me, like I was important. Neil treated me like my dad told me a man is supposed to treat a woman. And I had never been treated like that. I had always been in abusive relationships, you know, either physically abusive or emotionally and verbally abusive relationships. And so Neil didn't abuse me. He didn't talk to me disrespectfully. He didn't hit me. Oh, shit. He did everything for me. He helped me be better. I didn't realize that Neil struggled with addiction as badly as I did. One day I was at work and we had started dating And I called him and I was like, hey, can you pick me up and take me to court? I have a court date for, it was like something I had done. I got a ticket or something before I lost my vehicle. And he was like, I can't do that, but I can let you use my truck. And I was like, what? To me, that was a big deal, trusting me with your truck. And so he brought me his truck and I took him back to work. And he texted me and he said, look in the glove box. I put a present in the glove box for you. So I opened the glove box or the console, whatever it's called. And there was 2 methadone 10 milligram pills in the console. And that's when I realized that he was like me. We both struggled with addiction and he was just like me. And so he had a prescription for 365 methadone 10 pills a month. And at first he started using methadone to help him. And it was helping him stay off of opioids, right? Other drugs. But quickly it became an issue to where he was just using it to get high and do other drugs. And so I started taking his prescription. He started giving me his prescription as well. And I became addicted to his methadone. And I just want you guys to understand, I chose to abuse his methadone. Medication-assisted treatment, methadone, Suboxone, Sublocade, Vivitrol, any kind of medication like that can help you get away from addictive behaviors. But I wasn't using it in that sense. I was abusing it. And so I became very strung out on Neil's methadone to the point where I was taking so much of it that I was in a constant state of nodding out. I was setting myself on fire. I would have seizures if I didn't take it. Like I would get really sick. It was really, really bad. And at one point, Neil went in to get his refill and his doctor drug tested him. And this is back when there were script doctors, you guys. We could just go to get a prescription from anybody. So he failed for cocaine, and his doctor said, listen, I'm not going to cut you off cold turkey. I'm going to titrate you down, but I'm titrating you off. And that's what he did. And he tapered Neil off, and in a couple of months, we didn't have that prescription anymore. And so we were both up shit creek without a paddle. So we started injecting Roxy's together. Neil had already started injecting drugs, so it wasn't like he just did it with me for the first time. He had been doing it for a while as well. Methadone was just like there to fill the gap when he wasn't getting high. But basically, our families, were like, y'all both are struggling with addiction. My mom and dad were so supportive of our relationship because they knew that Neil was a good person underneath his addiction. But Neil's parents did not like me. They, especially his mom, she found herself blaming me a lot for his addiction, which, like I said, he was a drug addict when I met him. And so that's one thing about my family. They never blamed anybody else for my shit. That was my shit, And just like when I met Neil, that was his shit. We came together and we just made each other's shit worse because we were both getting high. So his family didn't like me. Well, too bad because I wasn't going nowhere. In 2013, I got pregnant with my son. And we had been together for about a year when I found out I was pregnant. And I was so afraid. I knew that I was strung out on meth, strung out on opioids, strung out on Xanax, strung out on coke. I was just on everything. And I failed miserably. I failed my son miserably. I got off of opioids and benzos, but I struggled with methamphetamine throughout my whole pregnancy. And I will say it right here. I'm a piece of shit. That's a terrible thing. I did not protect my child. I was selfish. I chose to use methamphetamine over the safety of my unborn child. I wish I could go back and change it every single day. I think about it. There is not a fucking day that goes by that I don't think about it. My son is 10 years old now. There's not a day that goes by. July 3rd, it was 5 o'clock in the morning. I had been up all night on meth. I started having these horribly, very strong shooting pains in my stomach and my back. Like, it felt like somebody was taking an ice pick and dragging it across my lower back. And at this time, my mother and father-in-law had allowed me to move in so that way they could help me and hopefully keep an eye on me, keep me healthy through this pregnancy. And so I went next door to my mother-in-law's room and I woke her up and I said, hey, I think I'm having the baby. And she's like, don't worry, it's going to be okay. It's just getting started, you know? So I called my mom, and my mom had just flown into Arkansas because I knew that I was going to have my son the first week of July. And so my mom had already flown into Arkansas from New York because I didn't tell you guys this, but my parents had moved to New York because my addiction and my sister's addiction had gotten so bad that my dad, it was affecting his health. And he was going to have a heart attack because he was so worried about me and my sister. So they left Arkansas, went to New York, because they were just so stressed out. Like they had to. Me and my sister were sucking the life out of my parents. So my mom had flown in, and she came straight to the house, and Neil came home from work, and we went to the hospital. It was 8 o'clock in the morning by then, okay? We went to the hospital, and I'll never forget it. They checked me, and I was only 1 centimeter dilated. And I was like, oh my God. And y'all, I was scared for my life. I was so scared that if I stayed there, they were going to know I was high and take my baby from me. So I was like, can I please go home? So they were like, yeah, go home, come back when you feel like you're farther along. So I went home, and I was in labor all day long at my house till 8:30 that night. When I stood up, I looked at my stomach in the mirror, and my stomach was really low. And my mom was like, I think we should go to the hospital. I think I think Nate's coming, right? I already knew I was going to name my son Nathaniel Alexander. And so we were already calling him Nate. So we went to the hospital, and they checked me, and I was 8.5 centimeters dilated. And I had my son on July 4th morning at 1 a.m. My baby was a firecracker baby, July 4th. My labor was fine. He was born completely 100% healthy. And I just really want to make this very clear. I'm not telling you, oh, it's okay to do meth. My baby was born completely healthy. No, I'm just telling you the truth. A lot of people want me to say things that are not true. My son, by the grace of God, was born healthy. He was protected. Some force of, like I said, God saved my child from me. And I know that. I acknowledge that. Okay? I acknowledge that I fucked up and I made huge mistakes. My little boy was born healthy and thriving. He scored great on his APGAR scores. And we went home 2 days later. A lot of you are probably going to go, well, how did he not get taken away by CPS? I don't know. I can't answer that. I have no idea. I just know it was 2014, and I left the hospital with my son 2 days later. So you can imagine my surprise when I got to leave the hospital with my baby in tow after giving birth high on meth. I knew I needed to make a change, and so I stopped using drugs. I went home and I swore off all drugs. I was like, I'm never using drugs again. As God is I'm never using again. And for 90 days, I stayed sober. I did so freaking good, you guys. And then I went down to the gas station. I went down to the gas station to get some chewy candy because I got an issue. I love sugar. And when I got down to the gas station, my drug dealer, Z, was at the gas station. And he gave me some free Xanax bars. And I took the free Xanax bars. And that's all it took. And I was back to the races. I started injecting methamphetamine again. I started injecting opioids again. At the time, I lived with my mother and father-in-law, and they were taking care of my son. I would leave and not come back for days on end. Okay? Like, there was no abuse to my son, nothing like that. I was leaving him with his Gigi and Papa. This is where my best friend calls CPS on me. So many of you guys were asking me how this happened. Me and my friend, we shot meth together. We smoked crack together. She owed me $30. I needed that $30, so I asked her for it. She said, no, I'm not going to give it to you. So I went and got it from her boyfriend, who was a cop. Okay? When I got it from her boyfriend, she got mad at me. She called me on the phone and she said, bitch, I'm calling CPS on you. And that's what she did. CPS came to my house a bunch of times. I wasn't home because I was working a job. My husband wasn't home because he was working a job. And my mother and father-in-law had just moved into a new home. So we were living in their old house. We had taken over their house. They were taking care of my son at their house. I was working at a job. CPS came by a bunch of times. Didn't know that they came by until they left a note. When they left a note, I called them because I thought that was the right thing to do. Okay. Biggest mistake of my fucking life was calling CPS. Okay? Because they took my son away after they told me they would not do that. After I was honest with them about wanting to get help. All I needed was to go into treatment and get some help. Okay? I didn't need to have my child taken from me. I had family that would take my son. CPS fucked me and took my son and gave them to a foster family. They wouldn't let my son go with his grandmother and grandfather. Okay? So this is why when I talk to people about CPS, I tell you that you don't have to tell them anything and you don't owe them any explanation to anything. Okay? And I stand on that. I will always stand on that. Because my son went through unnecessary trauma and separation from his parents and the only people that he knew and loved. Because CPS was grimy and dirty and wanted money. And so they placed my son in a foster family when he had family that would take him. When he had grandparents that were fighting for him, that stepped up and begged to take him. So fuck CPS. Fuck them. Okay? I'll stand on that till the day I die. They put me and my family through so much shit that didn't need to happen. I voluntarily went to them and said I would like to get help. I wasn't running. I wasn't trying to do anything I wasn't supposed to be doing. I was asking for help. Instead, my son was taken from me and put in a respite home for 2 weeks because they had nowhere for him to fucking go. He was less than 1 year old. So, I fought CPS. It took me 10 months to get my baby back into my custody. But I jumped through every fucking hoop they laid down. My husband jumped through every hoop they laid down. And the rest is fucking history. The rest is fucking history. My husband got on Suboxone. I came out of treatment. I got on Suboxone. Recommended to me by the CPS caseworker. Recommended to me by my doctor as well because I was a chronic fucking relapser who was not able to put together any kind of sobriety time in over 15 fucking years of trying. And so I got on Suboxone. Best decision I ever fucking made. Best decision I ever made. Because today I have stability. Today I have full custody of my son. Today I have an amazing job working for an addiction specialist. Today I have money in my savings account. Okay? Today I have an amazing life. An amazing life. Okay? When I went to get help, do you know every single time I went to treatment, nobody gave me any other options. The only option that was ever given to me was abstinent-only 12-step treatment. That wasn't working for me. I tried that over 10 times. Why was I never given another option? Why was I never recommended to try something other than 12-step abstinence-only recovery? Thank God my husband knew about medication-assisted treatment. Thank God. Because I didn't know. And I got on Suboxone and it saved my life. I am on 0.25 of a milligram now. I titrated all the way down to a really small amount because when I'm on a smaller amount, I don't have any of the negative side effects that I used to have when I was on a higher dose. Okay? I will stay on Suboxone forever if I want to. But it saved my life, you guys. And I want to point something out to y'all. If I was on here and I was telling y'all that I was schizophrenic and I found a medication that treats my schizophrenia and keeps me from having hallucinations, and I hadn't had any schizophrenic hallucinations in over 2 years, would you come in here and tell me to get off my fucking schizophrenia medicine? No, the fuck you wouldn't. So shut the fuck up trying to tell me to get off Suboxone. If I told you that I was diabetic, which I am, and I take a medication that keeps my blood sugar in check, which I do, would you tell me to get off my fucking diabetic medication? No, the fuck you wouldn't. So shut the fuck up. Okay? Okay. Medication-assisted treatment helped save my life, and it's the only thing that worked for me. Years and years of drug addiction, years and years of struggling. This medication helped save my life. And I have nothing bad to say about it. Nothing bad. The only negative things that I experienced from it was when I was on a higher dose, I was constipated and it made me sweat, and I hated that. And it also slowed down my sex drive, which I hated. So what did I do? I lowered my dose and all that shit went away. And now I feel great. I have regular bowel movements. I don't sweat like I was, and I want to have sex again. So I'm happy as a clam. I don't have nothing bad to say about this medication. It helped save my life. And there's a reason why you guys are only given one option when you go into treatment. It's because they want you to keep coming back. They want you to keep filtering through the treatment industry. Because as long as you guys keep filtering through the treatment industry, they have people to make money off of. Okay? So I didn't want to keep going through rehab. I didn't want to keep on relapsing. You know? And Suboxone gave me and enabled me to not do that. So it saved my life. Like I said, I stand 10 toes down. Nobody can shame me. I have been making social media content about being on medication-assisted treatment for 6 years. Okay? Nobody can tell me nothing. I work for one of the best MAP providers in the United States of America. Okay? I work for one of the best providers. Okay? I know everything there is to know about this medication. I know about all the side effects. I know about the benefits outweigh the negative. The benefits of me being on this medication far outweigh the negative experiences that I could have. 100%. So, yeah. That's my story, honey. And I've been sober for almost 9 years. 9 fucking years, bro. I have full custody of my son. Like I said, I have a great job working for an addiction specialist. I also work for an amazing social media company. I get to work from home and be with my son all summer long, and I have been for 5 years working from home. My life is great today, and I don't struggle. I don't want to get high. I feel great. I feel great. Now, I will tell you this. I didn't just get on Suboxone and stay sober. I got into therapy, okay? I got into some recovery support groups, okay? The main thing that has helped me, all right, stay sober from all drugs, because let's face it, Suboxone's not for meth addiction, and I was strung out on meth, okay? Meth was my main drug of choice. What has helped me stay sober from all drugs is my son. is the possibility of losing my child. Scares me so bad. I will never touch another drug ever again, because I don't want my baby to ever have to be without me again. And that to me is the greatest motivation. I don't like that. To me, keeps me from ever picking up a drug. I don't know about you guys, but my son is my everything. Okay? He is the reason why I breathe air. He's the reason why I got sober. Because I didn't get sober for myself. I didn't love myself at all. I got sober for my son. And I learned to love myself in the process. Because I didn't love myself when I got sober. But I knew I had to make a change. Because I wanted to make a change for my son. And everybody's different. You know, people will tell you you can't get sober for somebody else. That's a damn lie. You can. Now, can you stay sober for somebody else? Maybe for a point of time. But for me, I had to eventually shift to want to stay sober for me. You know? And I'm learning to love myself right before y'all's eyes. Y'all are watching the transformation happen. You guys are watching me learn to take care of my body and to eat healthy. Y'all are watching me. I've lost 65 pounds. Okay? And y'all are watching it happen before your very eyes. Because I'm learning balance in my life. This is 9 years into sobriety. Okay? 9 years. This is hard. Making changes in your life, changing habits, becoming a better person, becoming healthy, staying sober, it's hard work. It doesn't happen overnight. So if you're somebody who loves somebody who's struggling with addiction and you're placing expectations on those people, you need to back up. You need to back up. It's hard work changing everything about your life. It's hard work breaking away from negative, destructive habits. It takes a lot of time and effort. It doesn't happen overnight. What's up, baby?
Rocky's right ear's hanging down.
Oh yeah, it does that sometimes. He's okay. Nate was asked. Rocky's little ears flopping. Most of the time they're up like this, but one of them going like this lately. But anyway, Nate gets worried about his puppy dog. It takes time. Don't place expectations on your loved ones who are healing from addiction. Okay, when you spend 15 to 20 years in chaotic drug addiction, it takes a lot of time to change your life and turn it around. It doesn't happen overnight. I am 42 years old and just now getting to a place in my life where I'm like making progress. And look at me, guys, I'm way behind. My other friends who are 42, who didn't struggle with drug addiction, they have houses they've bought and paid for. Okay? They have savings accounts built up. They have trusts for their children. They have all these things. I'm just getting started. I'm just getting started. I have to remind myself every single day, Nicole, you're doing it though. You're taking the necessary steps to get your life and put it in a better position. Don't be hard on yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Keep pushing forward. You know, it's easy. Comparison is the thief of joy. It's easy to compare my life to all my friends who have never done drugs, who didn't waste fucking 17 years of their life in active drug addiction, and think, oh my God, I'm so behind. Or to compare myself to people I see on social media who are, you know, doing this and doing that. That's not my life. That's not my experience. That's not what I've gone through. So, I want to answer questions because I got some questions that y'all put on this post. And I promised you guys I would answer them. So, let's get them out of the way. Okay? Okay. Okay. Thoughts on Suboxone. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. It's amazing. How do you deal with people telling you you're not sober because you're on Suboxone? I tell them to go fuck themselves. Straight up. Straight up. Go fuck yourself. Suck my left testicle. I I do not give a fuck. Like, honestly, I do not give a fuck if some random stranger from the internet thinks I'm sober or not. The only person who I give a fuck is my son and my husband. Straight up, baby. Okay. Can I ask... Okay, can I ask, do you think of the people you are hurting? I only ask this because my husband overdosed and I always wondered if he had guilt during his addiction. Absolutely, 100%. As you can see if you watched my story that I told today, all the guilt and shame that I still feel is very, very prevalent. And I still beat myself up about it to this day, even though I've been sober for almost 10 years now. You know, absolutely. Question. If a person used to do hard drugs but now only uses legal cannabis for anxiety because it doesn't have a lot of the side effects of pharmaceuticals, is that okay from an NA point of view? I don't know how NA... I think NA is totally against cannabis recovery, but we don't give a fuck what NA thinks. So I support it. I support cannabis recovery. I support mat recovery. I support... the use of psychedelics in recovery. I support science, evidence-based treatment. Okay, let me see. I think that's all the questions. Oh yeah, somebody else asked me, am I still friends with Tara, the girl who called CPS on me? Everybody wants to know if I'm still friends with Tara. Yeah, we're friends. She's a friend of mine here on Facebook. For 6.5 years of my sobriety, Tara lied to me and told me she didn't call CPS on me, even though I know she did. I hit 6.5 years sober and I was celebrating on TikTok. She reached out to me and she told me, I'm sorry. I'm the one who called CPS on you. I said, bitch, I already know. Like, you can't lie and kick it. You know what I mean? I forgave her. I forgave her 3 years into my sobriety. I forgave her. 3 years into my sobriety, she walked into Kroger. I was working at Hallmark at the card section. And she walked up to me, and the only thing I needed to tell her was, I forgive you. And no, that's not the Tara. The girl in the comments is not her. So... It is what it is. At the end of the day, that situation, even though it was negative and horrible experience, catapulted me into getting sober. So take that however you want to take it. You know what I mean? I'm trying to see if y'all asked any questions. Sorry. What are your thoughts on spirituality for recovery? If you want to be spiritual, that's up to you. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe in, like, praying your addiction away. I don't believe in that. But if that helps you, then more power to you. I think it's important to find what helps you. Everybody's different. You know what I mean? If praying while you twerk on a handstand underneath a tree 750 days a week helps you stay sober, I support it. So, do what you gotta do. Pop your pussy on a handstand to stay sober, baby. I support it. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever you gotta do. I'm not against you doing whatever you have to do to stay sober. How do you get through not having any energy after meth addiction? This is a huge, huge topic. I'm going to be so honest with you, Amber. For 7.5 years of the 9 years I've been sober, I had no energy and I wanted to die. I barely stayed sober, okay? Because I was so miserable. Because I was eating unhealthy and not taking care of my body. So if you don't listen to anything I say today, if you get sober from drugs, whether it be meth or whatever, you need to make sure that you are being healthy. that you are taking care of your body as well as your mind. That means eating healthy and exercising, getting out in the sunshine. It's so very important. Because what happened to me was I had no energy, I felt like shit, and so I overate. And I locked myself in my home, and I shut myself in, and I became a hermit in sobriety. Come on, Rockiana. In sobriety. That's what happened to me. And so if you don't have balance in your life, you will find yourself abusing food just like you abuse drugs. And that's how I got to over 100 pounds overweight. And that's why I'm working and only 65 pounds. I've lost 65 pounds of that 100. What side effects do you have dosing down? I've been reading, and lots of people say withdrawal happens for like 2 months. No, not if you go really slow. I had no problems dosing down. It took me 2 years to dose all the way down, from 12 milligrams to 0.25. And as long as you go really slow and listen to your body, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. But like I said, I went so slow, it took me 2 years. Are you listening? 2 years to go from 12 milligrams to 1/4 milligram. It's important to go slow and listen to your body. My dog's name is Rocky, but I call him Rockiana. That's me now. I think I abuse sleep. Yeah, you could be depressed and struggling. That happens. It happens to the best of us. And I wish that somebody would really, I wish people would have stressed it to me more. I don't know if I would have listened, but I wish somebody would have stressed it to me more to make sure that I was working on my physical health as well as my mental health. Because I was doing everything for my mental health. I was going to therapy. I was doing meetings. I was connecting with other people in recovery. I was sharing my story. I was helping others. But I wasn't taking care of my body. And I'm telling you guys, like I said, I became horribly addicted to food, and I gained 100 pounds. And guess what happened because of that? I became depressed because I was so fat and so miserable. My teeth are great. As long as you brush your teeth, floss, after you take your medication, wait 30 minutes, then floss and brush your teeth and rinse, you'll be fine. Just need to make sure that you rinse your mouth at about 30 minutes after you take your dose. Can you share your experience with psychosis? It's so hard to get my sister help because she strays in psychosis, also, or stays in psychosis. Do you know if Suboxone affects fertility? I don't know. I don't think so. But I mean, it could affect your fertility. I'm not sure about that. But I'm not sure about the fertility part. But as far as psychosis is, like, I would be hearing and seeing things that are not there. And so the only way to help me when I'm in psychosis is to admit me to a facility that would hold me against my will. Because if I'm in psychosis, I'm going out. I'm leaving. I'm going to run the street. I'm going to walk down the road and talk to people that aren't there. And so if I'm in psychosis, you got to put me somewhere to keep me there. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay, I want to address this whole falling out teeth. I really want y'all to listen to what you're saying, okay? If you were a drug addict and you were abusing drugs for years and now your teeth are falling out, don't you think that could be a direct result of all the years of drug addiction that you had? Why do you go to blaming it on Suboxone? This is so crazy to me. And and listen to me, you have to have proof that you actually took care of your teeth up until this point. That means going to the dentist every 6 months. Not once every 10 years, not once every 1 year, not once every 5 years. Every 6 months you're supposed to get a cleaning. Okay? And I know that if you were a drug addict like me, a lot of you guys can't produce that. You can't show that you've gone to the dentist every 6 months, even throughout your addiction. And so It always baffles me when I see people trying to equate their teeth falling out to their Suboxone when they were shooting meth and oxys for 20 years before that. No, you treated your body like shit for many years, and this is the fallout from that. Sure, Suboxone is acidic, okay? And so taking a medication every single day that's acidic can affect the enamel of your teeth, right? But so does oranges, so does Coke, so does taking other medications, so does everything else. And so how do you prevent that? By making sure that you floss, rinse, and brush your teeth. And see a dentist every 6 months for a cleaning. Okay? So, yeah, that's why when people ask me, does Suboxone? No. A lot of things rot your teeth. Why are we focused on that? If it can save your life from getting high on drugs, that's all that should matter. That's all that should matter. Hey, Kathy, love you. There's Kathy, y'all. Shout out to Kathy Brewer, the GOAT, the greatest of all times. That's my old boss from Kroger that I was telling you guys about, that gave me so many chances and helped me get into treatment and everything when I worked at Kroger. So she's the greatest of all times. But I just, like, don't focus on those kind of things. Like, the benefits of being on this medication far outweigh a tooth falling out. Okay? And I'm sorry, but were you worried about your teeth falling out when you were banging dope? No, you weren't. So come on, y'all. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm just keeping it real. All right? It's so crazy to me to see the things that drug addicts will complain about once they get sober. It's like, baby, you was mixing shots with puddle water. Okay. I love you guys. I'm going to get off here because, you know, I be getting sassy and stuff. But there's a lot more things to be worried about. Okay? Look at the risks versus the benefits. Okay? Always cracks me up when I see my fellow junkies getting all fucking their panties in a wad about some shit when I know their asses were out there swinging that punani on everybody that would come by without a condom. Don't even get me started, okay? Don't even get me started. I love you guys, okay? I love y'all. Don't be getting me started. Let me let y'all say good, hi to Rockiana. Rocky, say hi to everybody. Say, I'm the cutest boy that you ever did see. I'm the cutest boy that you ever did see. I hope y'all enjoyed my story, and I hope that it helped you in some way or encouraged you in some way if you've been struggling. You know, at the end of the day, like, my substance use was, I put myself in a lot of really bad situations, you know, and there are choices that I made, and today I'm making better choices, and that's all I can do today is make better choices and make changes and keep pushing forward. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that hearing my story helps you a little bit, and I hope that it wasn't too triggering. I don't think I told too many, you know, really triggering using stories, but I really wanted y'all to, like, get an idea of, like, why I struggled with addiction. A lot of it was, like, very based in my self-worth and low self-esteem. And it started at a very, very young age. And there was nothing that, like, my parents or anybody else could have done, I think, to change that. It was just something that I had to go through, you know? So, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really, really appreciate y'all's support. I can't believe that we hit 100K on this account. This is so freaking crazy to me. But I really appreciate y'all. Like, it means the world to me. Thank you so much for supporting me. For real. Okay, all right. I love y'all. I'll see y'all later. Be good, okay?